Hey there. This video is about learning to see color even in things that appear to be gray. So there's many exercises that I do with my students that teach people to see color. And so we do extreme light conditions. We are painting in a similar fashion in terms of seeing color the way Monet did. Monet was after seeing what was in front of him and really capturing the color of light. And that's what this group is about. So with brand new students or even students who have painted with other teachers that are more tonalist type painters, they are not taught and they don't see color within a gray type object. So I thought this photo reference was a good way to learn how to see color in things that appear to the layman to be gray. It's really key when you're doing any painting to, first of all, paint your painting as a whole. That's the first thing. You want to keep your shapes simple. And you want to always compare. That's why you need to have something down in all areas of your painting, even if it's just a spot of color, so that you can compare different parts of your painting to each other. So with the sky, for example, this cloud mass, this area here, this little cloud formation, all have a very gray appearance to the layman. But in efforts to see color, when you compare this to this, you can see that there's some similarities. You can actually see blue in here. And the difference, though, with this is there's a warmer leaning than this blue. And part of the reason for that is this warm glow that's coming from behind on this area of the sky. And this warm glow is creating a more violety or even purple-like start to, or difference to the areas that are up here. So when you compare these two areas of this sky, you can see this is clearly a blue color, but then you get over here and it changes a little. It kind of gets into a little more like a violety. I probably would even add a little viridian in there to mute it down, if you will, so it's not too raw. And then when I look at this, I'm seeing a lot more warmer blue tendency. So knowing your color wheel and how colors mix and look side by side and interact is extremely important. So that's an exercise that I give my students to do. I ask that they physically do a color wheel. It's not enough to own one or to even have used it over and over to refer to. It's the actual mixing of the colors that's key. And there's a lot of reasons behind that that I'm not going to go into right now. So I saw this as being warmer than this. This is sort of in between. And so as a starting note, I chose a purple, a dioxide purple. And you see, this is a little more advanced step, but I've put colors down everywhere on this painting to kind of get some starting underpainting notes. So in order to really depict how light is affecting color or objects and the color of objects, the underpaintings and the starts are extremely important. So here I went in with a cobalt blue mixed with maybe a tad of viridian, But over here, I went more towards the ultramarine because of the red tendency in the ultramarine blue. But here, I start out with a dioxide purple. And again, having even these value and color notes down help for me to see these differences. So just for you to compare a little, I'm going to pull this over, probably pull it down because we're going to look at mostly the sky. I don't know why this is doing that, but anyway, we can see how warm this is. It still kind of has a blue kind of tendency, but it is warm in comparison to this area up here. I'm just going to put that back there. So now I've started to fill in a little more, and I'm starting to add a little more detail. Now this is a more advanced level of painting because I start my students with very out of the tube, no mixing of color, and we're using blocks to keep things extremely simple. And these early steps are what helps you to really identify the differences in color and how to choose color based on temperature, value, and what's around it, you know, the different colors that are around it. So everything is relative. Everything relates to one another, and that's extremely important when you're starting your painting out. And another thing I want to point out is that you want to stay in this zone even less than what I've done here before moving on to make sure you've got this part right. Because if you don't have your values or your temperatures or your color choices accurate for your starting notes, which is leading up to depicting this image, you're not going to have a rich, vibrant, colorful, impressionistic look. And I say impressionistic, but I've done very tight, realistic work, a horse in particular, using this understanding of color. So here you see I'm starting now to fill in and really get into the nuances of the color, but I'm not getting too bogged down with detail. I'm still working on my color choices and depicting the different areas like the warmth. So I start coming in here with some yellow ochre. I've got yellow deep with white, which was an underpainting, but then now I'm going to go in and bring in some of these types of blues that, because of the nature of the colors, you can see how it starts to quote-unquote gray things out, but yet in a colorful way. So I continue on with this process, and you can see this was taken in a slightly different light condition, but you see how now I've really started to develop this painting, and I will develop this even further so that it comes up to what's called the local color, which is the colors that you see here, but modified or created in such a way that there's richness. So here in this area, you're seeing how I've isolated out the shapes of the lights. I did an underpainting because I saw this area in particular having a very warm tendency going into almost like a violet-y. So a magenta with white played an important role as an underpainting to this. But now I'm going in with types of blues like manganese and cobalt, And it's a push and pull as you progress with the painting. And this painting is not finished. It's going to require more work to make a finished painting, but this is how you take something like this that can look very gray and turn it into a rich, colorful depiction of the light condition in this photo.